like the idea that a voice can just go somewhere
uninvited, like a dirty thought in a nice clean mind.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay back at you. Today we're going to talk about the Shutdown, Project 2025, and the Epstein files because they're all connected. We all know we're in the middle of a government shutdown. And we all know that's because the Republicans want to take away health care from 42 million Americans by not extending the subsidies to Obamacare, the ACA. But it's also going to raise the cost of health care on the average American, and the average American is going to see their health care triple, quadruple, and at a very minimum, it's a 26% raise just from the insurance companies alone. But that's right now, because when all of these people lose their health care, then the insurance companies are going to have to raise their rates because they have less people on health care. So they have less income. So you who has health care pays more than he who doesn't, obviously. But it's because they don't want to extend the subsidy. So the Republicans are trying to use SNAP right now as a tool. So what they're pretty much arguing is, and this is what Republicans are telling you, is we're going to starve you unless you agree to give up your health care. That's what they're telling the most vulnerable people in this country right now. We're going to starve you unless you agree to give up your health care, which is wild. So the Democrats are doing the only thing they can do and is not voting on this bill because they need the filibuster of 60, which I know Trump says get rid of the filibuster, which would be damaging right now, but it would make shit a whole lot easier when the Democrats come back into power. And then all you do is do what you need to do and then re-vote in the filibuster. All right, politics are getting too grimy as it is, and we don't need to go there right now. So the government shutdown, again, about giving trillions of dollars in tax breaks to the richest people in the United States, right? We all know that oligarchs are getting tax breaks, $4.5 trillion added to the debt so the oligarchs can get more tax break on their billions, while the most vulnerable people in this country suffer. Also, the government shutdown is a lot to do with they do not want the release of the Epstein files. And we can go into, even if they get the vote, the shit that Pam Bondi can do to try to stop the Epstein files from coming out and shit like that. But right now, we're just going to focus on why Mike Johnson and the House don't want to swear in a legally elected congresswoman. But it's because they don't want these Epstein files coming out because they know that Trump is all over these, and a lot of donors and a lot of people of power are all in these files, and they're protecting all of these people, and that's why they don't want to come out. That's why Pam Bondi's like, they were on my desk, and Kash Patel from the beginning was like, we need to release the files. Then all of a sudden they start going through the files and they see the people whose names in here, and they're like, whoa, we can't let these files get out. And they know if they swear her in, then they have enough votes to get the release of the Epstein files. And a lot of what's going on, minus the Epstein files, is part of Project 2025. So we'll get to that yet too. Let's start with the Epstein files. So a lot of you know the name Katie Johnson. She's the one who sued Donald Trump and Epstein for raping her when she was 13 years old. And she filed the suit under Jane Doe. But Katie Johnson is the lady that was raped when she was 13 years old in more than one incident with Donald Trump and Epstein. And this is all public record, and I will put the link to these court files in the description. So if you want to go look at them, and also if you just want the PDF, just ask ChatGPT for the PDF, and they'll give you the link right there. You can download them and, read the PDF yourself. But I am going to play these being read to you, and then we'll talk about them as they go. But these are the true court filings from the Jane Doe case involving Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and Katie Johnson.
The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges that the defendants Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein did willfully and with extreme malice violate her civil rights by sexually and physically abusing plaintiff Johnson by forcing her to engage in various perverted and depraved sex acts by threatening physical harm to plaintiff Johnson and also her family. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges that the defendants, Donald J. Trump and Jeff E. Epstein, also did willfully and with extreme malice violate her civil rights by conspiring to deny plaintiff Johnson her civil rights by making her their sex slave. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges she was subject to extreme sexual and physical abuse by the defendants Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein, including forcible rape during a 4-month time span covering the months of June through September 1994, when plaintiff Johnson was still only a minor of age 13. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges she was enticed by promises of money and a modeling career to attend a series of underage sex parties held at the New York City residence of defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein and attended by defendant Donald J. Trump.
All right, let's stop right there for a second. Now, literally think about this. This is a 13-year-old girl that they are luring in with the promise of money and a modeling career so that they can sexually assault her. This is the type of people we're talking about. This is the type of man who runs the country, and this is why they're covering up, because there is more stuff like this in the Epstein files that they do not want to get out. And I should have warned you at the beginning, and I'm giving you a warning right now before we go forward. There is some stuff in this filing that you are going to hear that is kind of hard to stomach. So I want you to be aware of that right now before we move forward. So if you can't handle hearing something like that, like if you'd rather read it, do the PDF or the link I put in. If you are okay with that, keep watching, because I'm about to play some stuff that's going to be really hard for you to hear.
First occasion involving the defendant Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to manually stimulate defendant Trump with the use of her hand upon defendant Trump's erect penis until he reached sexual orgasm. On the second occasion involving the defendant Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to orally copulate defendant Trump by placing her mouth upon defendant Trump's erect penis until he reached sexual orgasm. On the third occasion involving the defendant Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to engage in an unnatural lesbian sex act with her fellow minor and sex slave, Maria Doe, age 12, for the sexual enjoyment of defendant Trump.
All right, let's stop there for a second and go over that. So they literally are now violating two children, 12 and 13, making them have sexual acts with each other to fulfill this pervert's fantasy or whatever he's got going on. This is the man that's running the country, the man who is doing this right now. And we have a cult full of people who are defending him. And it is wild right now. But this is the kind of stuff that went on. And this is the kind of stuff that they are trying to cover up and make sure never get out. But the level of depravity that we've already heard, and it keeps getting worse. That's the problem. It keeps getting worse. And this is the guy that people have put their trust in to run our country and to get us to a place where we need to be. I don't understand some people, but we'll keep going. And just to let you know, it doesn't get any easier to hear.
Trump. After this sex act, both minors were forced to orally copulate defendant Trump by placing their mouths simultaneously on his erect penis until he achieved sexual orgasm. After zipping up his pants, defendant Trump physically pushed both the minors away while angrily berating them for the poor quality of their sexual performance.
So the man who comes up with nicknames and is disrespectful to other people all the time is now berating two children, 12 and 13 years old, for not getting him to where he wanted to be. I don't even want to say any more about it. We'll just keep going.
On the fourth and final sexual encounter with the defendant Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was tied to a bed by defendant Trump, who then proceeded to forcibly rape plaintiff Johnson. During the course of this savage sexual attack, plaintiff Johnson loudly pleaded with defendant Trump to please wear a condom. Defendant Trump responded by violently striking plaintiff Johnson in the face with an open hand and screaming that he would do whatever he wanted, as he refused to wear protection. After achieving sexual orgasm, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, put his suit back on, and when the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, in tears, asked defendant Trump what would happen if he had impregnated her, defendant Trump grabbed his wallet and threw some money at her and screamed that she should use the money to get a fucking abortion. On the first occasion involving the defendant Jeff Epstein, the plaintiff Katie Johnson was forced to disrobe into her bra and panties and to give a full-body massage to defendant Epstein while he was completely naked. During the massage, defendant Epstein physically forced plaintiff Johnson to touch his erect penis with her bare hands and to clean up his ejaculated semen after he achieved sexual orgasm. On the second occasion involving the defendant Jeffrey Epstein, the plaintiff Katie Johnson was again forced to disrobe into her bra and panties while giving defendant Epstein a full body massage while he was completely naked. The defendant Donald J. Trump was also present as he was getting his own massage from another minor, Jane Doe, age 13. Defendant Epstein forced plaintiff Johnson to touch his erect penis by physically placing her bare hands upon his sex organ, and again forced plaintiff Johnson to clean up his ejaculated semen after he achieved sexual orgasm. Shortly after this assault by defendant Jeff Epstein on the plaintiff Katie Johnson, plaintiff Johnson was still present while the two defendants were arguing over who would be the one to take plaintiff Johnson's virginity. The defendant, Donald Trump, was clearly heard referring to defendant Jeff Epstein as a Jew bastard as he yelled at defendant Epstein that he, defendant Trump, should be the lucky one to pop the cherry of plaintiff Johnson.
The lucky one. The lucky one. These two men are arguing over who gets to violate this poor little girl first. Think about that. Think about that. Literally, they are arguing over it. And besides the fact that Trump says racist shit in the middle of that, like, it is so beyond that. Like, think about what they're really fighting about and how disgusting it is and what this poor girl went through just for the sick fucks that are out there, and they're covering up for people like this in the Epstein file. This is exactly what they're covering up. And people are okay with this.
Johnson. The third and final sexual assault by the defendant Jeff Epstein on plaintiff Katie Johnson took place after plaintiff Johnson had been brutally and savagely raped by defendant Trump. While receiving another full body massage from plaintiff Johnson while in the nude, defendant Epstein became so enraged after finding out that defendant Trump had been the one to take the plaintiff Johnson's virginity that defendant Epstein also violently raped plaintiff Johnson. After forcing plaintiff Johnson to disrobe into her bra and panties while receiving a massage from the plaintiff, defendant Epstein attempted to enter plaintiff Johnson's anal cavity with his erect penis while trying to restrain her. Plaintiff Johnson attempted to push defendant Epstein away, at which time defendant Epstein attempted to enter plaintiff Johnson's vagina with his erect penis. This attempt to brutally sodomize and rape plaintiff Johnson by defendant Epstein was finally repelled by plaintiff Johnson, but not before defendant Epstein was able to achieve sexual orgasm. After perversely sodomizing and raping the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, the defendant Jeffrey Epstein attempted to strike her about the head with his closed fists while angrily screaming at her that he, defendant Epstein, should have been the one who took her cherry, not Mr. Trump.
Think about that. He beat her because somebody else raped her first. Somebody else violated this poor girl first, and he beat her for it. We can't let this cover up go on. Sorry, this is just so disturbing to me. We can't let this cover up go on. We need to fight back, and this is part of the government shutdown. They do not want these Epstein files out, and this is exactly why. This isn't even the worst of it, and it just turns my stomach. It is so disgusting, and I am so heartbroken that a child went through this.
Only managed to break away from defendant Epstein. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was fully warned on more than one occasion by both defendants, Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein, that if she were to ever reveal any of the details of the sexual and physical abuse that she had suffered as a sex slave for defendant Trump and for defendant Epstein, that plaintiff Johnson and her family would be in mortal danger. Plaintiff Johnson was warned that this would mean certain death for herself and plaintiff Johnson's family unless she remained silent forever on the exact details of the depraved and perverted sexual and physical abuse she had been forced to endure from the defendants. Tiffany.
So they threatened her and her family's life, which shouldn't surprise you. Trump's made a career out of threatening people, and there's already leaks out there that have said he has threatened other senators and congressmen to even spread lies about them if they didn't get on board and do what he said. Trump has threatened and bullied people his whole life, and now they're doing it to, well, they did it to a young girl, and we all know it's more than one. This is the files. This is why we need the files. This is so disturbing. And this is why we have to fight back and make sure they can't keep this cover up going. But everything that's happening to this girl, we have heard him do during his presidency to other people with the threats, with the bullying, with the name calling, with telling people they're not good enough, like, and trying to force his agenda on everybody, no matter what it is. So nobody should be shocked when they're listening to this and think, oh, Donald Trump didn't do this, because this is absolutely his character. He has proven this to us since the beginning of Donald Trump being in the being famous, back with his racial rental practices and everything that's went on. Donald Trump has proved that he's a bully. He has proved that he'll go to any lengths to get what he wants. He has proved that he will intimidate and that he will use any means to keep people quiet or to get what he wants from them.
Tiffany Doe, a former trusted employee of the defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein, has agreed to provide sworn testimony in this civil case and any other future civil or criminal proceedings, fully verifying the authenticity of the claims of the plaintiff, Katie Johnson. Witness Tiffany Doe was employed by the defendant, Jeff Epstein, for more than 10 years as a party planner for his underage sex parties. Despite being subject to constant terroristic threats by defendants Epstein and Trump to never reveal the details of these underage sex parties, at which scores of teenagers and preteen girls were used as sex slaves by defendant Epstein and defendant Trump, witness Tiffany Doe refuses to be silent any longer. She has...
So think about that. This is a employee of Jeffrey Epstein, that she was employed by Epstein for over 10 years. And she is willing to come out and say that there was a ton of young victims out there. And this is a witness who worked for Epstein, Tiffany Doe, right? And I know they're protecting her with her last name, but like, seriously, and they have to, because what would happen to this poor girl if her name got out into the public? What would the Proud Boys or all of those J6ers or any of the like crazy MAGA people do when they find out who she is? They would attack her, and maybe even worse. But there is a witness to this, and some people are still not going to believe it.
The extent of the sexual perversion and physical cruelty that she personally witnessed at these parties by defendants Epstein and Trump. Material witness Tiffany Doe fully confirms all of plaintiff Katie Johnson's allegations of physical and sexual abuse by defendants Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein. Tiffany Doe was physically present at each of the 4 occasions of sexual abuse by defendant Trump upon the person of plaintiff Johnson, as it was her job to witness all of the sexual escapades of defendant Epstein's guests at these underage sex parties, and later reveal all of the sordid details directly to defendant Epstein. Defendant Epstein also demanded that Tiffany Doe tell him personally everything she had overheard at these parties, explaining to her that knowledge was king in the financial world. As a result of these underage sex parties, defendant Epstein was able to accumulate inside business knowledge that he otherwise would not have been able to be privy to in order to amass his huge personal fortune. Material witness Tiffany Doe will testify that she was also present or had direct knowledge of each of the 3 instances on which defendant Jeff Epstein physically and abused the plaintiff Katie Johnson. Tiffany Doe will testify to the fact that plaintiff Katie Johnson was extremely fortunate to have survived all of the physical and sexual horrors inflicted upon her by defendants Epstein and Trump.
Think about that. Lucky to survive what she went through and what all these other girls have went through, just because there are some sick fucking perverts out there who can't keep their hands to themselves and to think they are above the law and can do whatever they want. But guess what? We have proven that they are above the law. They are not being held accountable. People literally elected this guy to the highest office of the United States. They made him the most powerful man in the world. This predator. They made the most powerful man in the world. What the fuck is going on? This is wild. And anybody who doesn't believe it, you're just lying to yourself, or you're one of them. You're on their team. The fact that you would defend somebody who did these type of things is crazy. And they want to talk about Pizzagate and all this other wild shit like they actually gave a shit about children. They always say they're pro-life, but they don't give a fuck about the child after it's born. Taking food stamps and healthcare is proof of that. And then defending somebody who does shit like this. I don't care if you're a conservative. How the fuck are you okay with this? All right. Sorry you guys had to hear that. There's no way I could have read that to you. So that's why I played that for you, because me reading it would have just made me sick. I couldn't have got through it. There's no way I could have read that to you guys without like having some kind of fucking mental health issue or some shit. But there it is, plain as day. Like I said, I'll leave the link in the description. Also, ChatGPT will get you the PDF instantly. All you have to do is ask if you want to read it. But I know there's going to be people out there who say it's not true. So there is proof. These are the actual court filings, which are public record. So you can read them yourself if you think there was something lying on here just to prove it. But that's part of why the government shutdown's going on. I mean, this is multifaceted, right? The Trump administration does not want these files coming out. It's why Congress hasn't been in session forever. And Mike Johnson keeps coming up with bullshit on why not to do it. And then he did this dumbass Nancy Pelosi shit where, well, I'm just following her precedent. Dumbass, that Congresswoman asked Nancy Pelosi not to swear her in until a certain date because she wanted people there for it. Okay. It's not the same thing. So we can stop with that. It's all because you're carrying Trump's water and you don't want those files to come out. Makes me start to wonder about Mike Johnson, but that's a whole different podcast, I guess. All right. So then also what's going on is all of this is part of Project 2025. I was screaming this before the election. All of you know this who follow the page or the channel, but everything that's going on is part of Project 2025. You can go read it. They talked about taking SNAP benefits. They talked about taking your health care away. They talked about using a government shutdown to gut the economy and the government. They've talked about doing this. They've talked about and Steve Bannon has openly talked about this on his show, throwing as much shit as they can at the courts because our court system is not equipped to stay up with all of this shit being thrown at it at one time. And they are really throwing as much as they can at there to stress the courts out to try to see how much they can get through, even though the Supreme Court actually just this morning, they haven't ruled yet, but if you go watch the wording and the tone of what Justice Roberts and other Trump appointed justices had said, it really looks like they're getting really sick of Trump shit too. So that might be our only saving grace, is if the Supreme Court, and here's the thing, it might be for some of them about law, but the most thing is if they let Trump get away with what they're doing, the Supreme Court loses their power. And when have we ever seen powerful people be willing to just hand their power over to somebody else? So that might have been something they didn't take into the equation when they were like, I appointed the Supreme Court, I'll get what I want. Trump was thinking, but yeah, you're trying to take their power, and people aren't just going to willingly give up power to somebody else, because that's why we're in the problems we are, is because everybody's so fucking power hungry and doesn't just want to do the right thing because there's so much money involved. And yeah, I mean, think about it. All these billionaires, it's not about the money anymore. It's like the more money they accumulate, they just accumulate power. It's not about the money. They have so much money that their great-great-grandchildren will never be able to spend this money. So it's all about buying influence and power. But this government shutdown has been planned. Don't think this is some like freak thing. The Republicans planned this out. This is a strategy. And now there was reports that Trump just yesterday had a closed-door meeting because of the blue wave that happened in the election, and was screaming at people that they're blaming us for the economy. They're not buying. It's the Democrats. No, because the American people aren't as stupid as you think. Just because some of your supporters are that stupid doesn't mean the rest of the American people are that stupid. And even the people you lied to who bought into it, some of them are waking the fuck up that they've been lied to. And some of them are admitting it. That's the problem, too. A lot of them know they've been lied to, but people have a hard time admitting they were wrong, backtracking. I always say it is okay to change your stance when you're given new information. Like, you always have to be willing to pivot and adapt when you get new information, and you can't be so stuck in your beliefs that you're not willing to hear somebody else's side, because even if you don't agree 100% with what they're saying, maybe there's some nuances in there that help you form better opinions on what you got going on. But the Trump administration just thinks we're all dumb, and so that they can say whatever they want, and they take it out of Hitler 101. And I'm not being hyper, this isn't hyperbole, and I'm not being over the top. Like, literally Hitler 101, make up a lie, make it ridiculous, and scream, or make it outrageous and scream it over and over until people believe it. And if you look at it right now, these people who are trying to, like, kind of turning against Trump, and then JD Vance is out there trying to, like, calmly wheel them back in. This is what happens when you're in a cult. When they get upset with the leaders, they take other people in leadership and go calm them down and bring their faith back to the leader. And that's what you're seeing a lot right now too, which is scary. Like, people got really upset about the Epstein files, and then JD Vance somehow went out and convinced them that this shit ain't real, because people don't believe Pam Bondi. People don't believe Kash Patel. Like, their numbers are in the tank when it comes to trustworthiness. But for some reason, a lot of the MAGA loyalists really believe JD Vance when he talks. And this is a guy that changed his name like 5 or 6 times. It's fucking weird. I don't know. JD Vance hated Trump at one time. And then Elon comes in, and because JD Vance is one of the Silicon Valley tech bros, Elon wants him as vice president. Trump wants Elon's money and influence from Twitter or X. And next thing you know, we have JD Vance as vice president, and he's literally willing to sell his own family over Elon's racists that were part of Doge, when his family is from India. Well, his wife, and then his kids are half Indian. So I don't know. The whole thing is crazy to me right now, but we just got to keep fighting. And people out there don't want to believe that these powerful, rich people that somehow they look up to, like Trump, aren't in these Epstein files. But right here is court filings from a 13-year-old girl, a 12-year-old girl, a witness who worked for Epstein for 10 years, which, if you ask me, her ass needs to go to jail too. But that's not what this podcast is about right now. We can get into that. It's kind of like I get people hit me all the time, and they're like, oh, well, Bill Clinton's in the Epstein files. Okay, lock him the fuck up too. See how easy that is when you're not in a cult? Anybody who violated these children, lock them the fuck up and never let them out. It's pretty fucking simple. Like, I don't understand how people, like, their argument is Bill Clinton's in them too. Like, too as in also, right? Like, so you're admitting you know Trump is in there, but you're still defending him. The shit's wild. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry I put you through that, but I think more people need to know. That was really rough to listen to. But I hope you all just keep fighting the good fight and keep your eyes open. Like I said, big changes are coming soon, and we really appreciate any support and love, because we're all fighting to get the same thing. One world, one love. Deuces.
Everything's polluted. The environment, the government, the schools, you name it.
This radio person is the whole problem. Are we going to allow this guy to be heard by anyone who can turn a dial?
You out there? You listening?